Many people in Newberg know the Kiwanis Club as the people who help guide traffic during the downtown trick-or-treat event on Halloween, or the people who help do service projects around town or give to various kid-related projects in town. And while all those things are true, there is a lot more to Kiwanis that most people don't know about. I've been to the club both as a guest and as a speaker, and they are some of the most welcoming and generous people I've met. So if you have a heart for serving children and haven't been to a meeting, I highly recommend you go check it out because that's what they're all about, is serving children in our community and internationally. And as a bonus, you'll get a free lunch too. Anyways, in this episode, I'm talking to Kevin Purcell, who is the 2022-23 president of Kiwanis, and also Rick Lee, who's another member in Kiwanis. And we're going to be talking all about what Kiwanis is, what it's about, how it got started, and some of the projects that they are doing here in Newberg, and some of the work Kiwanis has done internationally. This is going to be a really informative episode that I highly recommend everyone listen to because Kiwanis is such a great club. Hi, I'm Danielle Roberts. I'm a local realtor in Newberg and a member of, well, a lot of different organizations in town. And I also run the Living in Newberg YouTube channel, which is all about Newberg, what it's like to live here, work here, play here, and it's also got a real estate flavor to it. Anyway, I love this town. I love helping people move here and learn about our amazing community. And I do this podcast because I love sharing stories about all of the great organizations and people who make this town the great place that it is. And that's what this podcast is all about, to share stories of hope and generosity in Newberg and the surrounding area to help people be inspired, get involved, and ultimately have hope for our future. So I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with Rick and Kevin as we discuss the Newberg Kiwanis Club.
All right, well, Kevin, Rick, great to have you guys with me today. I don't often get two guests with me on these interviews. So we'll be talking about Kiwanis and look forward to see what you guys have to share. So could you both quickly introduce yourselves and kind of how you fit in with Kiwanis?
Yeah, my name's Kevin Purcell. I'm the president of the Newberg Kiwanis Club this year.
I'm Rick Lee. I was in Kiwanis originally back in the 80s in McMinnville, and then skipped a few years to raise a family and work in the Portland area, but rejoined Kiwanis after I retired, along with my wife Annie, and we've been members of the Newberg Club for probably 5-6 years now.
Okay. Well, in mostly Kevin, it'll be you sharing, right? And then we'll get to the golf tournament later, which obviously we'll share about. And then Rick, you'll be sharing a bit more about that. So Kevin, if you wouldn't mind just sharing, what is Kiwanis in a nutshell? I'm sure most people have heard of it. We also had a previous episode, or you were on one of the service panels and shared about what Kiwanis is. But for people who don't know, what is Kiwanis?
Yes, well, thank you, Daniel, for the opportunity to share about Kiwanis International and the Newberg Kiwanis Club. Kiwanis International is basically a global community of clubs, members, and partners dedicated to improving the lives of children, one community at a time. Today, there are over 550,000 members from K Kids, Key Club, and Kiwanis, and many ages in between. It's in 80 different countries and geographic areas, and each community has different needs, and Kiwanis empowers members to pursue creative ways to reach the needs of children, such as fighting hunger, improving literacy, and offering guidance. Kiwanis clubs host nearly 150,000 service projects every year.
And so that's kind of a great, I think would go in a great pamphlet. But for you specifically, what does it mean, like when you just speak like, hey, what does it mean for you to be in Kiwanis, and why do you do what you do?
Well, to me, Kiwanis is all about service. It really is just about serving the community and trying to make the community a better place. And we do a lot of different activities to help that happen.
And the focus is on the kids, correct?
Absolutely, yes. We have a big focus on the kids in the community. A little bit later, I can talk about service leadership programs, all the different service leadership programs that we support.
Okay. So how did Kiwanis get started in the first place?
Actually, Kiwanis started in 1915 in Detroit, Michigan, and it was basically a group of businessmen that got together and started Kiwanis, and it just expanded from there. Kiwanis International also partners with UNICEF, and the last two major projects, global projects, have been that have raised nearly $200 million in the last probably 7-8 years, were to eliminate iodine deficiency disorder, and then most recently maternal and neonatal tetanus. And each one of those, like iodine deficiency disorder, a lot of, especially third world countries, if there's just isn't enough salt in the water, it can cause mental retardation when children are born. And it was a fairly easy fix, and although it cost about $100 million, but basically Kiwanis International eliminated iodine deficiency disorder.
Wow.
Maternal and neonatal tetanus, which is the current project, is again in especially African countries, if the mother contracts tetanus, the child is born and lives for about a week and dies a horrible death, and an individual shot is only $1.70 to eliminate that. And so again, Kiwanis International, along with UNICEF, has raised about $100 million to eliminate maternal and neonatal tetanus also. So those are just a few of the things that have been kind of a focus of Kiwanis International.
Yeah, and you mentioned a collaboration with UNICEF. Can you give a brief overview of who they are?
I wish I could remember the acronym.
Do you know, Rick? I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head.
United Nations International Children's something.
Something fine. Yes.
It sounds good. Well, it's funny when you mention just, when you talk about huge numbers like 100 million or 200 million and, the quantity of people that can be reached. I think this is one of the big problems we see in all kinds of international and even on a different level, local aid and contributions. It's so easy to those numbers just kind of gloss over and it just not to mean anything. And Rotary, so I'm in the Rotary Club and we kind of have a similar focus. The Noon Club has a similar focus on children. So it's great that there's multiple clubs doing different things. And in Rotary, it's always been about polio. And most people that are under the age of maybe 50 or so probably are not very familiar with what polio is or how impactful it is on kids. But there were thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who went through that. And the same thing with, a tetanus shot, saying, okay, millions of kids or however many thousands of kids die a horrible death because of tetanus. It's just easy to lose track of what that means until something happens to our own family or our own friends. And it's easy to just not do anything and get involved because it also can feel really overwhelming. But you guys have actually chosen something and said, okay, we can't do everything. We can't help everyone, but here's something we can do. So can you share maybe from your understanding of how that was chosen, and then also for you, both of you specifically, kind of how you go beyond just seeing the big numbers and it glossing over, but to actually do something about it and contribute?
Yes. So just briefly, the Kiwanis is structured where there's Kiwanis International, and then that group chose these projects, iodine deficiency disorder, basically the leadership and the boards there. And then there's also the Pacific Northwest Division of Kiwanis, which includes Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and British Columbia. And that they have a governor, and that governor actually about 7 or 8 years ago chose children's cancer. And they've done an incredible job. In fact, Kiwanis sponsors 2 doctor researchers at Dornbecker Children's Hospital, 2 doctor researchers at Seattle Children's Hospital, and 1 researcher at BC Children's Hospital, to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And the amazing thing is, in about 40 years, I think the survival rate for children with cancer was about 20 to 30%. And now I think with a lot of this research, it's over 80% survival rate for children.
Wow.
So, it's made a huge impact. And so that's kind of, and then when you get to, I guess, our club, just the small Newberg Club, we again have a board and a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and then we just, kind of make our priorities. And so I guess it does go from very global to a division, and then to local.
Yeah. And what are some of the projects that, and maybe we'll get to that, but what are some of the projects that we do here locally?
Yeah, I was going to talk about the local club. The Newberg Kiwanis Club, actually, this year is our 75th year serving the Newberg and Dundee communities. And then a few years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, we also added the St. Paul community, where we sponsor a Key Club at St. Paul High School and then a K Kids Club at St. Paul Elementary. So what are K Kids and Key Club? Basically, our club sponsors several service leadership programs at different levels. So they're structured much like our adult Kiwanis Club, with the election of a president, a vice president, a secretary, treasurer, and sometimes a sergeant at arms. So these programs included K Kids, which is grades 3 through 5, which we currently have at Mayworush Elementary, Dundee, and St. Paul Elementary School. A Builders Club is grades 6 through 8, and we're really hoping and hopeful that we can get one going for sure at Salem Valley Middle School and possibly at Mountain View this year also. COVID was really tough on our school programs. And then the Key Club is the high school, grades 9 through 12, and we have a very active group at Newberg High School and St. Paul High School. And then there's also a service leadership program called an Action Club for adults with disabilities. And we've been working on that one for a couple of years, and we're hoping to get it going this fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
great.
I just want to interject that, because Kevin wouldn't say this about himself, but Kevin was a retired school administrator, much beloved as a school principal, and anybody who had kids in the Newberg School over the last 30 or 40 years certainly would know of Mr. Purcell. My kids all sure did. But Kevin has a real gift and passion, especially around these schools. And he's got great connections. He knows the principals and other administrators in the district. He's in touch with them. He brings in a terrific kid from each of the schools every month, and we honor those. Sorry if I'm stepping on something else we're going to say. It's great. And ever since my wife and I, Annie and I, have been involved with Kiwanis, Kevin's passion for the Youth Services Committee and anything related to, especially that network of clubs, he's just showed outstanding leadership, and it was a great connector for our community that way.
Thanks for sharing that, Rick, because I have a feeling you probably wouldn't have said that, Kevin. So, and I think that's helpful for people to know. Again, as our town grows, more and more people move here and have no clue, who people are and what the past is. So, I think it's helpful for people to know that, and I personally believe it's nice for you to be honored in that way. So thanks for all that you've done.
Well, and also any parents listening out there, we would love to basically the structure of the K Kids programs in particular and the Builders Clubs is we really need a parent who has a passion for service and to help support and just kind of be there. The kids really run the club. Mm-hmm. But if a parent out there is interested, I'm sure Daniel can give you my contact information, phone number, and email.
Certainly can.
Please get a hold of me if you're interested in helping with K Kids Club or Builders Club.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And one of the things I forgot to ask earlier, but Kiwanis has what they call the objects of Kiwanis. And I think you kind of touched on some of those, but could you briefly go over what the different objects are and what that really means?
Yes.
And if you don't have it all in front of you right now,
I think I printed them out with me, but
just kind of in a nutshell for what they mean.
Really, just all about service. We have different committees in our Newberg Kiwanis Club, and they include membership, human and spiritual values, basically just trying to develop kids and people who are whole people, caring people, kind people, inclusive. Really, that's the basis of the objects of Kiwanis.
Okay. Now, my understanding, because I visited and there was prayer before the club. So is Kiwanis a Christian organization?
It is not.
Okay.
It's non-denominational. We do start with a prayer, and some of our prayers that you pull off of the website about Kiwanis will say that, whatever faith you you believe in is everyone is acceptable. It's totally inclusive program.
Yeah, but there is, I think many clubs, I don't know if we have it currently, but there's like a spiritual values community historically has been an element. We also start off, Daniel, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
So we're not afraid to pray and honor our country, but again, I would say, is very open and certainly not exclusive in any religious beliefs.
Okay. So, and you touched on this too a bit, Kevin, what the work means to you, and I'd be curious to hear from you, Rick, of why you're involved and why this work is so important to you too.
Well, I think I personally love Kiwanis, and I think we're a club of doers. You'll see a lot of people. We spend money, on different projects. We spend money on our scholarships. We have a foundation, and we certainly. But it's not really about the checkbook so much as it is going out and picking up the trash. We have that. They call it the Newberg stretch between Dundee and Newberg that we keep clean by going out there and literally picking up trash on a Saturday morning for a couple hours. 40 or 10 of us, usually.
4 times a year, usually about 4 times a year.
Yeah, about every 3 months. And then we go and we work at Halloween to make sure that the downtown, that we are crossing guards, to make sure it's a safe experience. So my wife, Annie, has a passion. There was an older guy in our club, and as he retired, he'd always gone around and collected eyeglasses. We don't have a Lions Club in town, and that's usually their bailiwick. But they have, the Kiwanis has what they call Sable spectacles. So she goes around to rest homes and doctor's offices, optometrists and that, and picks up thousands of pairs of glasses every year and takes them to our district office. They are in turn measured for correction and delivered internationally to help people get sight. And so it's just, it's not all about just raising money and writing checks. I'll talk about the culture in a bit. It's our one fundraiser. It's not really why I'm a part of it. It's just the enjoyment of, getting together with a nice bunch of people, but also getting out and doing things in the community that isn't all about the money.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's interesting to know about the eyeglasses. Sounds like your wife really gets the lion's share of the... Sorry, I didn't know that about the Lions Club, though. I have a bad sense of humor sometimes. But Kevin, you shared some of the things about why it's important, but really, I mean, how do you think, maybe another way of framing it, how do you think Kiwanis makes Newberg a better place?
Well, I think the thing I've appreciated about it, the K-Kids clubs and some of the clubs, is trying to develop leaders and positive role models early on, and, not waiting until they get to high school, but really trying to build in that idea of serving other people at the elementary school. And the Dundee Elementary in particular this year, they had a great group of K-Kids and had projects every year. They actually raised about $650 with a coin drive for Dornbecker Children's Hospital. And so the kids just realizing at the elementary level, there are other kids and children and people who are worse off than I am. And I can do a little bit to help make that a little bit better and to make our community a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, it was something that I've got a planner and it's got little inspirational quotes. And I believe it was Benjamin Disraeli, and I might butcher the quote, but basically it said, heroes leave a legacy of a good example. And I think there's a little bit more to it, but, in addition to other things, I see in a small way, other people might see in a big way that you're kind of a hero around here. I know you shake your head, but in many ways, I think it's the small things that make a difference of reaching out. And you mentioned earlier that you've got a couple of grandkids, and, I just love seeing that. And, whether you realize it or not, like, you're probably a great role model for them. And, maybe one day they'll get involved in the Key Club and the K Club and all that too. But I think that's something to be to be proud of. I think what you said is exactly right, is being able to have kids have a positive role model, positive examples. And yeah, I think that's great.
We have just so many great members in our club too. For example, well, we meet every Thursday at noon at Shale Cultural Center. If anybody out there would love to join us, we'd love to have you. And Lisa Blackburn, one of our members, sets up the speakers for that. So we have had really great speakers. You were there one time,
Yeah.
Juliet's house. Rick, can you think of some other?
Oh gosh, a lot of the nonprofits will come and speak to us, but Lisa is very active, as you probably know, through the Chamber greeters, and so she meets a lot of people and hears their presentations and kind of cherry pick some of the best of the best. That's how we got you. Yeah, and it's very entertaining. It's very interesting to have that, and then there's just some little fun rituals we do at the meetings that are kind of cool too. We do happy bucks and some fun things like that. The meetings are light and casual. Yeah, as Kevin said, we'll treat you to your first lunch too. If you our business card, one that says
join us for lunch.
Join us for lunch.
Yeah, the clubs. I mean, it is a fun time. I went, and actually, we, it's unfortunate in other ways, but I still like Rotary. We went to one of the clubs before COVID, and then we were actually considering joining, and everything shut down, and then we got roped into the Noon Club by Sakena. If you know she's very influential and persuasive. So it was kind of went the Rotary route instead of Kiwanis. But again, one of the things I love so much is that there's multiple clubs that all pitch in, that we all kind of take turns and do different things. I see much more of a collaboration than a competition.
Absolutely.
And being able to just have more and more people who can get involved and help. Like Lisa, for example, she actually got the Volunteer of the Year award for the Chamber award ceremony, which I thought was really cool.
Yes.
Two of my favorite meetings each year are on at around Thanksgiving time. The Rotary host invites Kiwanis to join them for a noon meeting, and we have a joint meeting. And then a month later, at around the Christmas holidays, we invite the Noon Rotary to join us. And those are always fun. We just try to make sure we mix it up and are meeting new faces, or we're doing all friendships between those clubs.
Yeah, well, this is me speaking out of turn, but I do that sometimes. Maybe this year we can see if we can get the early and the Chehalem Valley Rotary clubs involved too, and get all.
Yes, that'd be great.
They may not agree with that, but I find it great to get everyone there. So, and I think you shared some of the things that some of the clubs and stuff that that Kiwanis does here in Newberg. But are there any other projects, like specifically? I know you mentioned the Halloween. You mentioned
highway cleanup. Yes, I did have a couple others. We also give just recently we give $3,000 scholarships to high school seniors for college, and so $15,000. And then we also support the Mount Hood Kiwanis Camp. It's up by close to Mount Hood. And it serves people with disabilities, ages, I think, 5 to 65 or 70. And we usually do maybe a couple work days up there when they're preparing the camp, and they have summer programs, probably about 6 to 8 weeks of summer programming up there. Other than that,
one near and dear to my heart is Gales Creek Camp for children with type 1 diabetes. I've got a 7-year-old granddaughter who's diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and this is near Forest Grove. Former director of the Cultural Center, Rob Daly, is the executive director now of the Gales Creek. And it's just a great camp. It's an overnight camp for kids from about second grade on through high school that really normalizes it and puts people in touch. They have medical staff there, volunteers, and maybe some paid staff, endocrinologists volunteer from OHSU and Dort Becker, and it's just wonderful. It's been a terrific opportunity. And it serves, that doesn't sound local, but it serves a lot of Yamhill County kids all over the state of Oregon. Another thing that's very local, our former mayor and club member, Bob Andrews, started a teacher grant program. So teachers can apply for micro grants up to $500, and and they can just submit it for a project. Maybe it's a garden, maybe I think we help buy some theater, theater curtains and things like that. We'd love to get other people to come to us. There's a group called Welcoming Equity, which is affiliated with the Mabel Rush Parents Active in Education. And, it had hair care products for BIPOC students, personal care products. And they just wanted a little seed money. So they asked for $300 and we gave it to them. And so I like those local hands-on things too.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned some other things of ways people can get involved, including the golf tournament. Maybe that would be a good time to share now ways that the community could get involved and also be part of your fundraisers, get involved with the club, that kind of thing.
Sure. In fact, we're kind of proud that we have focused on just doing one fundraiser. We don't want to go out to the business community and just keep knocking on your door. We'll come around once, kind of like United Way does. That was the principle. It's just, instead of having everybody do it, let's just kind of focus our attention. So that's what we do. And we have raised, this is the fourth year that Annie and I have coached here at the golf tournament. And in each year we net about $25,000 that goes back to fund those scholarships. It all goes to the Kiwanis Foundation, which is a foundation that we built up into the 6 figures now that continues to generate interest and income that continues to help fund our projects. And so we directly pull the scholarship monies out of there and monies that we want to grant locally. But so it's a successful and important fundraiser for us. We generate most of the revenue from sponsorships. We get it's actually the Newberg Kiwanis /ADEC Golf for Kids Benefit Scrambles is the official name. ADEC has stepped up and become our title sponsor for several years. And then we have other major sponsors who will, for example, Lewis Audio Video does our driving range sponsorship, and Triple Wellman, a construction company, does as our hospitality sponsor. St. Paul Audio Association has joined us the last several years as our awards banquet sponsor. So those major sponsors, we will generate a lot of revenue from them. Then we field about 180 to 100 golfers each time, and the major sponsors get a complimentary team, or sometimes they don't want to field a team, so we will get a team of, say, Special Olympians or the girls golf team at the high school and say, Art Elements Gallery would like to be your sponsor, because they don't want to field, a team themselves. So, we'll get golfers from there, and then other golfers just sign up and pay the $400, $100 a golfer. I made a quick little listing of, for that $100 entry fee, all of our golfers get green fees for 18 holes with a cart. You get driving range privileges. We give you a snack lunch. Your cart's going to have cold water in it, plus a swag bag. 2 beverage tickets for the that comes around on the beverage cart. We have free entry into our hole contest. We have a men's long drive, women's long drive, a long putt, an opportunity to participate in some of our other we call premium play holes, which is like our wine hole. You pay $20 on a little short par 3, and if you can land your ball on the green, you get a ticket. You get to pick out a nice bottle of wine when you get back to the registration tent.
Okay.
That kind of thing, and buy mulligans and those kind of things, all to raise money for the kids, of course. We have an awards banquet at the end. Birch Chuckwagon does a great job catering a barbecue for us. And then we have prizes for the foursomes that have the lowest scores, and of course the men's and long drives gets a nice prize too. So we think a real value, and I like to say a couple of things about it. So we net about $25,000. We'll actually gross. We'll bring in over $30,000 and everything we spend back into the community. We put money back in, obviously, the golf course to give us a pretty good deal, but we put money back into the golf course, the sign company that makes our signs for our sponsors, the Newberg graphic, local caterer, those kinds of things. We're proud of that. And the other thing that I like to keep hammering home to our club is that it's pretty simple. As long as we do 3 things well, we're going to have a successful golf tournament. And those 3 things are take care of our sponsors, give them as much credit and signage and appreciation as we can possibly show them. But go frequent their businesses. We certainly do. Second thing is show our golfers a great time, make them want to come back, make it a really fun day. Yes. And our third metric of success is raise as much money as we can for the kids of Newberg, Dundee, and St. Paul. Yes. And that's what it's all about. If we can just keep our focus on doing those 3 things well. And I'm pretty proud to say that we do a good job with that. People enjoy their day on the course and enjoy the meal. It's a lot of laughter, a lot of fun. We raise a lot of money, and I like to think we do well by our sponsors.
Yeah. We're so fortunate to have Rick and Annie in the club because they've done a fantastic job the last 4 or 5 years with the golf tournament.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Really fun.
That's our 16th annual. This is something that we've been doing for a while now. And there's one year that we just didn't do it, and then Don Clements got it going again, and then Amy and I took it over from him, and we tried to keep the fire burning.
Yeah,
done a great job.
And so what are other ways? So the golf tournament, that's kind of your big thing. You mentioned people getting involved with the club. And really, I mean, I think that's a great deal, is just go show up for lunch. But say someone's not a golfer, someone's not necessarily, they're not free on Thursdays. How else can people get involved with Kiwanis?
Well, as mentioned before, too, we're really looking for parents in the schools. So that would really be helpful we love to get a K-Kids going at the schools that we don't have it at right now. Edwards, Joanne Austin, Ewing Young. I think we have all the other schools. And if you're a middle school parent and you happen to have a little bit of time, most likely, I think both of the middle schools actually have an activity bus that goes home. Most of the K-Kids clubs meet Wednesday mornings because the district has a late start. And so they'll meet for about 45 minutes on Wednesday morning. But the parents usually have to drop the kids off there. But I believe the 2 middle schools, the Builders Club, will probably be after school. So if you're a parent that just happens to have a heart for service and maybe a little extra time after school, I'd love to get together with you and tell you a little bit about our Builders Clubs and our K-Kids clubs, and see if we can't get some wonderful clubs going at the elementary and middle schools.
We also did some things too that's a really a great question, Daniel. We'll do things that are a little spontaneous once in a while. Maybe we could do a better job of advertising them. Well, for example, Juliet's House wanted to do a deal where they did Easter eggs that they could. We filled Easter eggs with candy and then went around to different families who'd signed up so that their kids would join an Easter egg hunt on their front lawn on Easter morning. So people could come join us for, just stuffing eggs. Or there's a group that made blankets that makes a program.
Tied with Love.
Tied with Love. It's a local nonprofit that somebody started. They came and made a pitch. We gave them a little money, but we also sent them some volunteers. So joining in on that. We've had some people, we wear little orange vests that say Newberg Kiwanis very proudly when we pick up trash on the highway or when we do our work on the Halloween. And so we've had people on social media say, hey, I saw the Kiwanis out there. Thank you for making that. Or, would you please let me know next time you do that, because I'd like to go out there with a trash picker and help you out. We haven't done a great job of, grabbing those names that we'd love to have people. You don't have to be a joiner. You don't have to, if you don't have lunch on Thursday, just be a friend of Kiwanis and we'll put you in.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for sharing. There's one more question I wanted to ask I didn't prepare you with, and that's, given your position in Newberg and with Kiwanis, what is something that gives you hope for the future of Newberg?
Oh, I just love, I think as I mentioned, the Dundee K Kids group did about a 4-minute video, and I just love to see the kids involved and engaged and making posters and, raising a little bit of money for Dornbeckers and just being so excited about just being wonderful citizens, just being great citizens of our community. And it's very exciting.
I'd have to just pile on to that. It's really about the kids, and it's about making those kids feel valued, and they in turn will do things, Daniel, and come up with ideas that we never could have come up with because they have a different perspective. We've got some great leaders, parent leaders, and faculty leaders that are inspiring and help direct those efforts. But you just see these kids take off on their own, and we see the terrific kids and hear the principals just talk about why the teachers, picked Susie to be, the terrific kid. You just see their chest puff up, and their parents are there. And Kevin always makes a point of saying, and we know the terrific kids come from terrific parents, and that they get a bumper sticker that says, "I got a terrific kid." So that just to see. That's what gives me hope, I think, is to see that pride and them take pride in the community and in themselves.
Yeah, well, the kids now are the future of Newberg citizens. So thank you both for investing so much into the future of Newberg's population, and look forward to hearing more about the great work you guys do as Kiwanis.
Thank you for the opportunity. We really appreciate it. We have a pin for you. Kiwanians, for some reason, are really into pins, and it's a Kiwanis pin, says, "Be inspired, be inspiring."
Well, hey, that's right on my alley. So thank you. I appreciate that.
I would like you to wear it to Rotary.
Where'd you get that?
Trader. We have a few members who are in Rotary also, so there's just a little application.
Yeah, I might get some plaque for that. No, I appreciate it. I think, I wish more young people would get involved. I know it's hard.
Yeah.
There aren't many people in my age with kids and who are in the thick of having their businesses up and going that make it work. And, but for me, it's even time spent with my own kids. I think that's so important. And I wish more people would recognize that there's going to be time enough to put money into your investment accounts and build your career down the road, but there's so few precious times getting spent with your own family.
Absolutely.
But as they get older, I will encourage them also to get involved with all the clubs too. And I will continue to be a friend of Kiwanis, whether or not I enjoy it. Well, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Givingtown podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend who you think might benefit from hearing it. While more and more people are continuing to hear about this podcast, I still need your help to spread the message about all the people and organizations that make Newberg so great. Well, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next episode.